We're good?
Mhm.
Good evening, everyone. I'd just like to thank you for coming to the meeting tonight. We have all of you muted, but you can send us a question as the night goes on. We are having this meeting. I talked with the other commissioners, and there's a lot of confusion out there that a lot of people don't quite understand the whole process of the reevaluation. And we felt that we needed to come in and maybe help with the information on how the reappraisal process goes through the whole way through. And then when it comes to the commissioners, to where we deal with the actual levy rates. So we're going to start here in just a second, and we'll let you start asking questions. I want to give Vice Chair Matt Nichols a second he wanted to make a little brief statement, and we'll go on from there.
Yeah, no, welcome everybody. Appreciate you all joining us. Purpose and intent of this, I know, is to hopefully reach as many people as we can. Social media platforms. I know I typically don't respond to things on Facebook, but once we started to kind of see that some, misinformation was being put out there and things were going in a whole different direction, kind of wanted to explain the process and exactly where we're at instead of, jumping right ahead to things because we haven't quite got there yet. Thank you very much. We need your help in putting out the correct information. We've had actual in-person meetings, believe it or not. There are 9 of them. And since what? When did they start?
January.
They started in January, and we've had 9 throughout the county, and very little to none actually at some of the meetings. 1 to none at some of the meetings. So it's very hard to even put out information. We have our published agenda. We have our published regular meetings. Very little participation. How many people do we have here in the chat right now?
86.
We've got 86 people. I mean, that's a pretty good turnout. I wish that we could have some people like that, or more people start coming to our actual meetings. We need some ideas also, if you want to give us some more ideas on how to disseminate information better. I know that, elderly may have issues with the computer, and a lot of people on social media may get their information that way. And that's kind of why we want to make sure it's the correct information. So you can, give the proper information out to people, instead of confusing them more so. So this is the purpose for this meeting. We're going to go over some of the things that have already been discussed at the prior tax revaluation meetings, and then kind of give a timeline on where we're going to be going from here. So as y'all have questions, go ahead and toss them in the chat, and we'll go ahead and get started.
Well, I just want to bring, one of the questions a lot of people, why is Harnett County reappraising property values? And that's General Statute 105-286. North Carolina law requires all counties to reappraise real property once every 8 years. Counties may set the reevaluation schedule to every 4 years if voted on by the Board of Commissioners. Harnett County is on the 4-year reappraisal cycle. Harnett County's last reappraisal took effect on January 1st, 2022. And one of the reasons that I was not on the board at the time they chose to do that, but my understanding is why they chose to do that is because of the significant change that can happen in 8 years. And, the tax values, the values of your property and the way Harnett County is growing would be probably an extreme amount of money difference in an 8-year period of time. Then why is the reappraisal cycle being shortened from 8 years to 4? That's General Statute 105-286. And like a fast growing county like Harnett County, if you go 8 years, it leads to much larger unpredictable changes to property values. Shorter cycle reduces the chances of this happening, helps make property taxes more equitable, predictable, and manageable. I went to the conference down in New Bern, and one of the things that we're talking about was reappraisal. And one of the reasons reappraisal happens and you go out there and do it in the detail that it's done, is so that everyone is treated fairly and everyone pays their share of taxes. It's not, we want to make sure that the taxes are fair and equitable so that we can do that by doing the appraisals. Another question, what is market value? General Statute 105-283. Market value is the most probable price a property would bring in an open and competitive market between a willing buyer and seller. So I just wanted to quote a few of those statutes. One last one I want to bring to your attention. And if you would like me to give you the statute numbers again, just ask that question and we'll put them up. We'll get them to you again. 105-277.1, 105-277.1C. If do exemptions, elderly and veterans on the property carry over? Yes, if you have applied and been approved for an elderly or veterans exemption, this carries over to the following years. Should there be a change in your income or change of ownership, the exemption may be affected and you should notify our office. One last thing I want to say before we get into the questions is that we encourage you to appeal your reappraisal if you think there's anything at all wrong with it. It doesn't cost you a dime to do it, and the tax office is more than willing to help you do it. If you're having a difficult time doing it online, I think, Christine, you tell me if I'm wrong, if they come to your office, you will assist them down there, correct?
Yes, we will.
Okay, so understand, if you think there's an issue, please appeal it. That's what it's for, and it doesn't cost you anything to do that. Now,
Can I jump?
you want to say something?
Yeah, if I can jump in, kind of piggyback to give a little more information on that, especially for some clarification from my personal point, as well as, I'm not going to speak for other board members, but we realize that the snapshot that was taken for the property reval was taken at what, the height of the market literally has ever been. 4 years ago, when the date was set for us to take that snapshot, nobody knew, nobody could predict exactly where the market was going to go, how it was going to turn, whether it was going to go up or down from there. It went up. We took a snapshot. We are seeing that the market is on the decline, but we aren't even there yet as far as setting, a tax rate and trying to adjust and compensate for that in order to be for revenue neutral. But that is things that were planned a long time ago. This was all things that have been planned out. We've had things posted online. We've had our meetings. We've laid out timelines. Each event has taken place on those timelines, and it's now we're here. So
one last thing, and those of you who have wondered or questioned or whatever, the budget is online, correct?
Not yet. The budget will.
No, the previous budget.
Yes, previous budget is, yeah.
The check register is online, correct? So those of you who have asked or inquired about where's all the money going, you can look at the online and see the budget, and you can actually see the checks that have been written the whole time. So it's very transparent. You can see all this. I'll give you the next important date is May 4th. That's when the manager presents the recommended budget to the Board of Commissioners, and that's when we start going through the budget. And just to clarify, Commissioner Nichols said it a while ago, we are the ones who set the levy rate. The county commissioners are the ones who set the levy rate. And we're the only ones that do that. So we get a recommendation from the county manager on what the levy rate he thinks should be to be able to meet the needs of the budget request. And then the county commissioners go through the budget and we determine what those needs are. So I will now, unless anybody has anything else, we'll take our first question.
here, I want to jump right in again.
Oh, okay.
So with the appeals, obviously May 8th is the major date for the appeals. As we were saying before, we understand that there are margins of error, okay? I believe each county can have Like it's 10% margin of error is what they allocate for as far as appeals.
10%, yes.
Okay, so, and I mean, with everything, nothing's perfect. We know that there are gonna be appeals. We encourage that. If you think your values or your neighbor's values are wrong, help them, encourage them to submit appeals so it is correct.
All right, our first question, please.
We did have a question concerning appeals. Is there an official county guideline for comparable selection in the appeals process, such as the preferred radius, neighborhood limits, sale date window, square footage variance? I do not see those parameters stated on the 2026 appeal form.
So when you're doing comparables and they're doing the comparables for the valuations, what they do is they take properties with likeness and the same uniqueness. So that could be, properties that are within similar square footage range, or they could be within a certain radius, or they can be within, as long as they have similar likeness and uniqueness of the properties.
Christine, would you like to add to that?
No, Commissioner Nichols is correct. So we are studying properties based on their square footage, your build, and the similar building characteristics. Yes.
Next question, please.
Let me go on, grab one from the chat.
Yes.
How does the Harnett County Board of Commissioners plan to balance taxpayer relief with the need to fund growth-related services? And would the county consider lowering or capping its property tax rate as part of that strategy?
And this is something that we're not even there yet. The board is going to get together. We're going to still have a lot of budget presentations and see exactly where that's gonna align. I mean, there's a lot of things that we have to take into consideration, salaries of employees, additional employees. I mean, obviously, we're all arguing over the explosive growth that's here. Being able to manage those employees. Yeah, I mean, a whole plethora of things are going to need to be taken into account as far as the budget. And then at that point, according to where we're going to be at, the levy rate will then be adjusted. So yes, correct.
The infrastructure is, we have to look at we have to look at the service debt. We have to look at everything that's coming up, and to continue to provide the services. That's where we come up with the rate and the staff helps get us those numbers.
Every department.
Every
will come
department.
in.
I cannot believe that we won't be lowering the rate. I just don't know where the rate might land yet. There's no way to know until we get all the numbers in.
Not even there yet. Haven't even got.
Not even close.
No.
They also had a question back to the appraisals. How were the market values evaluated by the county or the private entity appraisal firm? Through which specific resources were estimates calculated?
Well, the county hires on with an appraisal firm. We hire a firm that conducts the appraisals. Yes, they are a third party. As far as I would need to have them exactly answer their criteria and what they use and determine. I know that they look at each individual property. I know that in some areas, such certain neighborhoods with similar likeness and uniqueness, you're able to kind of lump some of those together and do a little bit more of a mass appraisal. You got to keep in mind that we have 80,000 properties that need to be appraised. But the three different approaches that they use obviously would probably be in any real estate. They're going to use, a cost approach, a market approach, and an income approach. It all depends. A residential property, you may look at kind of, the how much the comparables and everything go for. A commercial property, it's whatever the highest and best use is going to be. So, if it's, an income producing commercial property, then, they're going to look at it a different way. Exactly which way they did on each individual property I do not know. I'm able to talk about this because of my real estate background and career. So it's, I've been able to actually dissect a lot of this and it's really helped me, with doing this position here in the county. So.
Next question.
All right, if property taxes increases are restricted at the state level, what specific measures will the county take to ensure that new development pays for the infrastructure and services it requires without placing additional strain on existing residents?
I can start to answer that question. I think the first thing everyone needs to know is by law, general statute, we cannot put impact fees on anything. And until the legislature would give that ability to the counties to do that, we're going to have to be very resourceful if that happens and try and tighten our management, because we don't have any way of putting fees on the developers. I wish we did, but we just don't. The law doesn't allow us to do it right now, and the legislature has not seen fit to give us that ability to do that.
Our hands are tied with bureaucratic red tape. So, even though you would think that we're local government, we're in the government, we still have state government that honestly dictates pretty much everything that we do. And sometimes yanks the rug out from under us, even though we may have a plan or are working on a plan or addressing something even on our level. They sometimes overhead and blanket it, and it kind of ruins our plans. So we constantly have to adjust for that. I know one of the major concerns is about protecting farmland and agriculture and, these builders and developers coming in here. That was something us working on an overlay for, a year and a half or 18 months, and 3 days before the Board of Commissioners was voting on it, came out with a House bill that yanked that power out from underneath us. And that would have given us, that was actually a tool that we had found, and we were using that tool in order to protect agriculture and land here in the county, and literally got yanked right from underneath us 3 days prior. And there's things like that happen constantly. We're dictated by statutes and have to do things accordingly, and we are monitored on that, and we get penalized if not. And it's a constant trying to get everything done the right way while operating, through the bureaucratic red tape of things. So.
Okay,
To address a question, yes, they are being answered in order because questions came in through the chat and through our Q&A. So we are reading them in order from how they came in.
in a similar vein, Commissioner Nickel, what you were just talking about, would you consider impact fees for new construction of new homes instead of raising existing home values? This would pay for needed infrastructure for these development projects.
We would be glad to if the general statutes would let us do it. I think we've asked and asked and asked, because of the growth in Harnett County, that, these subdivisions, just look at the schools. The tax on a house does not pay enough tax for that child to go to school. So we're already starting in the hole just with, if they have a child going to school.
1.7 children on average per household.
So yes, the simple answer is we would love to consider doing it, but we're not allowed to.
That would be an outstanding tool if we were allowed to use it.
85 million for just one middle school right now.
Oh, yeah, the middle school right now that we're building is 85 million. And my understanding from, Commissioner or Superintendent Brooks Matthews, that the Highland High School is well over 120 million.
Correct. And it was 80 million just, a few years ago.
Yeah, and we really would love to get and trying to find a way to do a CTE high school, because the CTE high school, in today's time, there's a lot of high school kids that are going to school will never go to college. They don't have a desire to go to college. But if we could get the CTE high school in place, then we would graduate seniors that were not going to college with ready to go into the workforce. And to me, that is a big deal for us if we can get to that point.
Yeah, because that's a multifaceted approach at taking care of several issues, whether it's overcrowding in the high schools, whether it's, workforce development as far as trying to bring in economic development, bringing in, some commercial and industry jobs. Companies look at that and what we can actually offer. And that is an investment that we are making into the community so we can have that to offer to bring other caliber and companies here. And that's honestly the biggest thing that people are fighting around here is the whole Wake County and, business and development. And we totally understand it. We're humans on a tax farm. That's why we're trying to get these companies in here so we can go ahead and, get some other revenues instead of, just out of our pockets each day.
Currently, the percentages are at 0.591% for the county, 0.105% for Duke Fire, and $85 for the landfill. Do you see this rate staying the same? Question mark.
It would be hard to, at this point in time, it would be hard to say that, but I'm just going by the reevaluation numbers that we have seen. I would say that the tax rate is, I say it has a lot more chance of going down than going up. I think that we don't know until we get the budget from the county manager, but I know we have talked and I think I'm pretty confident in saying it will not go up. It more than likely will be going down. I just don't know how far.
I'm going to go ahead and say as a caveat, people got to understand that that's a double-edged sword, and we've already played with that one a few years ago, and now we're starting to see the repercussions from it as far as, we went from 75 cents down to 0.59 cents, and was like, hey, we went through revals, we saw I think it was about 40% of 40% that we went up for valuations at that time. And we're like, all right, we're going to adjust it down. And we were still a few pennies over revenue neutral with that. And guess what? We got kicked out of this magical formula that they come up with up at the state level for low wealth funding, and the county had to absorb that out of our
$5.7 million.
$5.7 million out of our general funds. So it's a lot of different factors, and that was a big unknown. It was something that we had not seen before. We thought that we were doing the great thing, reducing the taxes and reducing it, getting it down to where everything was more manageable, and ended up costing us probably more money and definitely in the long run. So that is something that we're taking into consideration now. We didn't know, you don't know where that magical number is ever going to be at with that low wealth funding. It's a sliding scale, and we don't get told that information. It's like you either land here or you don't. And we did not. So we're going to pay particular attention to that. And there's definitely some things that we have to account for and fund this upcoming year. As far as Highland High School, the CTE school, some things to the Animal Adoption Center, some things that I know that we've been pushing off for a few years, and now is the time. These things are not getting any cheaper. We go from 80 million to $120 million for a high school in a matter of 5 years. And that's not something that we can sustain, and especially with the growth that's coming now. But like I have said, and we have said, we are taking in so many different factors and trying to put them all together. And it's more than just one thing that people can point a finger at with honestly anything. And we don't have any of those numbers at all yet. So as far as, things being set in stone and the information all being put out there, I hope you guys can disseminate this a little bit better, being like, hey, the commissioners haven't even gotten the budgets, the departments and stuff haven't even put in their budgets yet. And we will still have public input for those budget meetings, to where y'all encourage people to come out. Or if there is another way to disseminate this information, you guys can put that in the chat. And that is something that we will look into, because we've exhausted every idea that we have in order to get out the correct information. So with this, and hopefully coming to the meetings, some more involvement, there's nothing that is being hidden here. Everything is as transparent as it possibly can get. Come hang out with us for a meeting and you'll see some of the red tape and hoops that we do have to jump through and the things that we are working on constantly. So,
Q&A.
Okay. Oh, okay. Well, we did have one that had a few likes. Can we see our appraisal reports?
So I'll take that. So, citizens, property record card is what it's called, are available online. You may check out the GIS viewer. That's the most easily accessible place to view them. That is harnett.org/GIS viewer. And from there, you can search your property and there's a link to your property record card. And you can review all your property data to include your bedroom, bathroom count, your value, your prior value, the price per acre. There'll be a sketch of your home if there's a structure on your property, and we'll also list any outbuildings such as pools, sheds, shelters, canopy covers, etc.
Who runs Harnett County? Is the question.
The county commissioners actually dictate policy, come up with the budget. The county manager actually is in charge of all the personnel. The commissioners have 7 employees. How many employees the commissioners have? We've got you.
Three.
4.
They 3 direct, and then they appoint 2 additional.
Yeah. But we make the decision. Now, I think that if you're asking about the reappraisal, I want to clarify something with the reappraisal. And I didn't know this until I got to looking at it. Commissioners are not allowed to be involved in the reappraisal process. General statute does not, and think about it. I mean, I can understand why they would not be. But we don't have the ability to have anything to do with the reappraisal. The number, it comes to us, and then we have a schedule of values that comes to us. And we vote on the schedule of values. And I found out that we didn't have a choice. We have to vote on the schedule of values, period. The general statutes require us to vote on it. And we can question it some, but we can't really question it a whole lot. And I think the purpose is that to keep politics out of the reappraisal process, so that when it comes to actually doing the levy, that's why the county commissioners we handle the 100% of the levy. It's on us what the levy is set. And that's why we would like for you as citizens to be involved in the budget meetings and come and express concerns or ideas or whatever you need to tell us as we're considering the levy rate. We're going to go off what the county manager presents to us, and then we have our own, we look at it ourselves and we debate amongst ourselves, and I'm sure that will be a fun debate.
And to piggyback on top of that, so say that you come during the budget meetings and you have an idea, something that you would like to see, and it's something that's discussed. It may not be something that's affordable right then and there. It may not be something that we've been looking at, but we have what's called a capital improvement plan. And we have, it's a 7-year plan that we put out, and you can go online, you can check that out as well. And that looks at the upcoming priorities, the rankings and the list of priorities that we have them at. So, it's not like those ideas fall on deaf ears. It's not like they're not more important than well, yes, we prioritize them, one over the other. However, it's definitely something that we look at and take into consideration, in the future as well, that we plan out. So.
Looks like the next one is similar vein to previous. Why can't you require developers who build a certain amount of homes be required to build schools?
Yeah.
We're absolutely not allowed to. I understand that the one in Cape Town has been, they doing a school in there.
They're holding a spot maybe for a potential, thank you.
We would love for you, as citizens of this county, contact your senator and your House representative and tell them to give the counties the authority to do that, and we would be glad to implement it. I promise you.
All right, when will we see benefits from our tax dollars in the southwestern part of our county?
Amen. I see that. Nothing's done over here. Roads are in bad shape. Totally got that, but the roads are a DOT issue. That's not something that, the county takes care of. Sheriff does not patrol this area. I'd have talks with the sheriff, often. I talk with the patrol, major, and, with any issues that come up, you gotta understand, we have 600 square miles in this county, and that goes back towards, the resources that we talk about. So however many patrols they can have down there on that side, or if there's an issue or anything like that, that's on one side of the town, on the other that may need more attention, it's not something that we dictate and control. We fund the sheriff's department, and they're the ones that request the positions, so.
And the next is in regards to industry. Who is in charge of bringing the industry to Harnett County, which we have very few? Who is the largest employer in Harnett County?
Well, Harnett County is the largest, Harnett County is the largest employer in Harnett County.
Harnett County Schools is probably the largest. We do have individuals that are going out and trying to recruit.
Yeah, we have an economic development team. Stephen Barrington's the director of that. Honestly, if you go online, he did a presentation just 2 weeks ago, actually, or not 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, go on there, look at his economic development presentation. It kind of shows you where we've been investing in the projects that we have currently working. And also shows, compared to where we were, just a few years ago, a year ago. And you can see what is growing and what is coming though. So, I mean, it does take time in order to get some of these in here. First, it was trying to recruit, and now it's a matter of actually having a spot for people to go. We needed a product to be able to offer first. And that's something that we had a plan for, Edgerton Industrial Park. And, we partnered with Samet, and we have some industrial buildings going on up there as well. But like I said, all that information in more detail is online. It is in presentations, and that's why I really would encourage people to show up to meetings.
The next question, if everything goes through as proposed, how much tax money does that bring to Harnett County?
As we said before, we have no idea yet. We have not set a levy value, and that will determine how much money comes in.
It'd be hypothetical at this point.
And you can set, the appraisal can go up as high as it wants to go, and we do a revenue neutral, then it doesn't change anything. What we're trying to say is that we don't know what the tax levy will be because we don't have a budget before us or a recommended budget so that we can decide what items. I know that we have Highland High School that's out there on the horizon, and I said this before, the CTE High School is out there. We are trying to put things in place to be able to continue as the growth is here. We can't stop the growth. And we've got to have schools. When I was on the school board, we heard a lot of complaints about kids being in huts, and we're trying to get kids in buildings. It takes a lot of money.
Spending like 15 million in schools.
Yeah, we did. We increased spend at schools 15 million. We funded the teacher supplement pay to help try to retain the good teachers. And so we're trying to keep the employees in Harnett County. And as we do that, as things continue to grow, the tax burden grows, the money that's needed grows.
Mhm.
And again, y'all brought it up and I'm gonna say it again. Talk to your representatives, talk to your senators and tell them it would be awesome if we could do impact fees.
Yeah, that would be outstanding. You know, but yet, but going on that as well, though, I mean, the budget has a lot of factors and we have to look at even things around us as far as other counties. What are they paying their employees? So we can be competitive and retain the employees that we do have. You know, it costs a lot more to, train up a new employee, than it does, but, uh, salaries, I mean, in every single department, we have to be competitive, and that's things that we have to take into consideration. Let alone services, extra services, additional services, the current debts that we have, and that's all before any potential or future debts such as schools or anything else, so.
The next question,
Does the age of the house affect the value?
So within the schedule of values, there's a depreciation schedule. The schedule of values can be found on the harnett.org/tax website. When you open up the schedule of values, you will see a depreciation schedule based on the age of the home.
the next question, and I think this will again be for Christine. You are encouraging us to appeal, but we are not allowed to appeal unless there is an administrative or clerical error in our assessed value or other specific issue, not just because we disagree with the assessed valuation based on competitive sales, correct? Question mark. So please elaborate on that.
Right, so that is a statutory requirement. In the statutes, it is specific in stating that you must have a clerical or error or a error within the schedule of values that is being applied to your property. You may appeal your value to our office and we will take that into consideration. But there are certain reasons to appeal and certain reasons to not appeal. We do understand that citizens are concerned about the increase in their evaluation, but that is technically not a reason to appeal. All appeals have to be supported by evidence. So if you have that information, we are glad to accept it, review it, and make adjustments as necessary.
Let me ask you a question then. The evidence that you're talking about, if you got a comp and say you have non-developed land and it was compared to developed land, is that, and it was an extreme developed land difference, is that enough evidence there for them to have you look at it at least, or what?
Yes, we will look at all comps. So if a citizen provides comparable sales, pictures on the condition of the home, or the property, if there's wetlands that have not been accounted for, then yes, we will consider that in an appeal.
So that, in a sense, the question then is that, I think that you're saying yes, but there is a maybe there too, right?
There's a yes, but we do have to follow statutory guidelines
Right.
that are given to us.
All right.
Next question. Will the commissioner and vice chair state on the record that neither of you have directly or indirectly approved any new development which you have profited off of in any way?
Yeah, I will 100% state on the record, yes.
100%.
I encourage you to go on YouTube also and look at any even past zoning things. That's kind of where my real estate background helps this board. I'm not very kind to developers. You know, I love builders, you know, custom home builders. I wish everybody would come here and build a 1 to 3 acre property, custom home, something like that. That would be outstanding. Developers, yeah, I'm very outspoken about them. I expect developers when they're doing due diligence, especially if they're the ones that can afford this $30,000 to $40,000 an acre for this farmland that you and I cannot afford, that they already have done their due diligence and know how many properties are coming on that. They will not come to me and they will not be asking me for more properties, you know, just so they can fill their pockets more. Definitely not.
I say dittos. I absolutely have the.
Yeah, I mean, that's just adding more insult to injury on the strain. Like, you guys gotta understand that, like, we live here. Like, I was a business owner and I own my firm. I moved back here after getting out of the military, after trying to live off the grid elsewhere to be around like-minded individuals, purchased my old real estate firm in my community, which I'm a major part of, and just so we can take care of and raise, you know, my family here. Harnett County is my final stand. That's like, you know, I've got 5 children. I've got 3 here in the school system, you know, in school age. And it's, you know, we're just trying to help out our neighbors and my kids' peers is the future generation. And that's what we're trying to look out for. Definitely, am against the developers, period, so.
This question I think will be for Christine, and I'm gonna kind of summarize it. If someone purchased a house at a lower value and then they got their reappraisal notice and the benefit is higher value, and they believe that their home is not worth the higher value that we're saying.
Okay, so I've read that question. If you'll move back up so I can kind of skim it again. So in the reappraisal process, you may purchase a home for $100,000, but typically real estate is your biggest investment. And so typically real estate appreciates over the years. That contributes to your net worth and also to your personal finances. So with that being said, the market dictates the sale. The sales in the market dictate the values. We've seen a lot of questions about how can the market value and the assessed value be the same? Well, statutorily, they should be as close to 100% as of market value. So as your home appreciates and sales in your area continue to grow, then your property tends to gain value at the same time.
And also keep in mind, the snapshot for this revaluation was taken January.
For sales from January of 24 through December of 2025, and they were effective January 1st of 2026.
Okay. I had another question in the Q&A portion. Our property floods, is this considered in the appraisal process?
So yes, we do use certain online information sources regarding wetlands and topography. If you do not feel that that was taken into account, please file an appeal with our office and we will review that again. Also, we use FEMA maps to help us look for flood zones, and we also use conservation districts to include that. So if you feel like your wetlands were not accounted for, please file an appeal with our office and we will review that with you. If that is not noted on the data that we have online, then we will send an appraiser out to the property with your permission, and we can walk it and go down to that wetland areas and take into account what portion of the property is wet.
I have one more on the tax appraisal basis. How do we provide comps or appeal a mobile home that's personal property?
So you can visit online sources for mobile homes. JD Power provides an appraisal source for that. You can contact a local mobile home dealership and request information for sales that they have used in the past 2 years, and you can provide this to our office with your appeal.
Let's tie these two together. First part, who was the firm that you all used for reappraisal and where can people see their appraisal reports?
Okay, our third-party vendor was Vincent Valuations. They work across the state with various counties on reappraisals. And those appraisal reports, once again, you can see those online on our property record cards. And of course, our schedule of values is online for review also.
Can you also inform people about the process and what qualifies as an appeal? Because I think a lot of people in the chat are confused what qualifies as an appeal and what doesn't.
So I would say again, we encourage you to appeal. So if you have questions regarding your wetland designation, if you believe that your square footage is incorrect, if you have a finished or unfinished room in your home or cathedral ceiling, because our appraisers only visited the outside of your home, we were not going inside the homes in the county. So if you have a cathedral ceiling or a basement or some other specific, I guess, feature in your home, also your condition, and how the quality of your grade. So if you don't agree with what's on your property record cards, you can most definitely appeal those to our office.
The next question, did this reevaluation firm visit all properties or did they use AI?
So there was no artificial intelligence used in this reappraisal. Our reappraisal firm visited every improved property in the county from east to west.
On a different note, it was asked, is there not a committee for zoning?
There, well, yeah, the planning board, yeah,
Yeah,
and then that comes to us, but yeah, we have to approve that,
we spent 18 months putting the land use plan together.
yeah.
Why can't we raise sales taxes and lower the property tax or do away with it altogether?
Well, that one's a simple question. We do not have the ability to raise sales tax. That is a legislative thing that happens, and, you know, I would love to see sales tax. I would love for us to be able to get money off of sales tax. It would help the burden, but if you have a sales tax, then everybody pays. If you live in the county and you spend money, then you help pay for what's in the county. Right now, if you're a landowner or a property owner, you pay tax, or if you have a vehicle registered in Harnett County, you pay tax. So we would love to do that, but that's a legislative move, again, with your House and your Senate representatives.
I'm gonna tie these two questions together. How many schools does a county need to build? Does the county get grants for these schools? Have certain landowners already been contacted about purchasing their land for schools? And then where's the lottery money for the schools?
Well, being on the school board for 8 years, the lottery money is a very small amount of money that comes to the Harnett County. I was very much fooled when I got on the school board and actually saw what came in from the lottery. The two schools that I know of that are on plan to be built in the near future would be the Highland High School and then the CTE High School. And land has already been acquired for both of those locations. Currently, the Flat Branch Middle School, the land was acquired for that. When I was on the school board, we bought land in, I think 100 and some acre tract up in Northwest Harnett that's there to be able to build a school on. So I don't know of any.
The county has land, you know, it's just a matter of the time with the planning. First off, the school board has its own capital improvement plan. They have their own priorities that they then submit. Then, you know, things get prioritized in that way. So, we need a lot of schools. We honestly could do for probably a school a year the next 15 years, but, you know, funding.
Okay, the next is what percentage of real market value are properties taxed at in Harnett County?
So by statute, all properties should be assessed at 100% of market value as of the effective reappraisal date. And in this instance, January 1st, 2026.
Another question, why can't we build schools the exact same way? I'm assuming they mean layout. Why do we choose them to be different?
When I was on the school board, the schools were built based on the land that it was being put on, and the design was created for that particular parcel of land. The school presents to us the plan that they want now. So I don't know, I guess they still use that same criteria. I don't know, but,
I mean, the topography, a lot of
The
things
land.
dictated, you know, and honestly, you know, certain amount for the area, as well, you know, was originally a concern, you know. Now we're trying to plan a little bit better for the future. Everything that we do now, by the time that we can actually get a school being built and broken ground by the time we even think or conceptualize it or need it somewhere. I mean, you're looking 3 years down the road. So, and that's just for the need on being somewhere. So.
Okay, I did have another. Will assessed values drop if/when there is a decline in overall market values?
So yes, if there is a sharp decline in the market value and we reassess, then in the next reevaluation, you will see a change in that market value. As I've said, the market dictates the tax value, and so any increases or decreases in those sales in the market will definitely affect the next reappraisal.
I'm gonna give this question to Lisa. It's about the budget. So if the budget drives the amount of tax needed, can you just cut the budget down to keep things on a more even keel? But before you answer that, can you explain the budget process, Lisa, with this question?
So our department submit budget requests to the county management, and then we present it to the board. The board makes that decision on what gets cut. We can only make recommendations.
And have we ever had an independent evaluation of the budget to see what is actually truly necessary?
Not that I'm aware of. We get an audit done with an auditing firm every year.
Why can't you require developments who build a certain amount of homes be required to build schools?
We, again, that would be considered impact, and a law has to be changed for us to be able to do that. We can't, the law won't allow us to do it. It's that simple.
This question is for Christine. Will you publicly release the appraisal document finalized by the hired private firm?
Once again, as I mentioned, the property record card and the schedule of values are on our website, and you can find those there. And that is the only documents available. There are no other documents related to that.
Another question says, how do you notify Harnett County residents of these in-person meetings other than Facebook? I'll answer that.
Okay.
So we have a Harnett County newsletter that you can subscribe to on our website. That is a number one thing that I would say for everyone joining this call. Go to harnett.org/public info. In our newsletter, I, Desiree, will send out all of our meetings, events, anything happening within the county. Also, other than Facebook, we have Instagram. We do mailers with Harnett Regional Water. If you get your water through Harnett Regional Water, you may get those mailings. We also do next door. We have newsletters that we provide at each of our library branches throughout the county, physical copies that you can go into the branch and take a copy. So we have a lot of channels that we're distributing information. So no, we don't only post things on Facebook.
Thanks, that's great.
You're welcome. What is maximum siding on the property card is the next question.
Yeah,
What is that?
I saw that question earlier and I pulled up property record cards, and I'm not sure where you're seeing that on the property card, but if you will call our office tomorrow, someone will be glad to kind of guide you through that, and we can review it and look at it for you.
Can I list undeveloped land as a wildlife preserve or refuge?
So that's a yes and no question. So there are certain statutes that dictate present use value and wildlife conservation. And if you meet a certain acreage requirement and get a wildlife plan through the local wildlife biologist, you may qualify for a deferred tax for wildlife conservation. And we're happy to answer those questions in more detail if you call the office. Thank you.
There are some questions in here with people asking about their specific home. If you have questions regarding your specific home, I would advise you to get in contact with the tax department so they can have that one-on-one conversation with you. The next question is, can we touch a little bit more on the budget?
Sure.
Like, what are the priorities or needs?
Well, I mean, yeah, we just went through, well, you just presented the CIP,
Yes.
right? 4 weeks ago,
Is that what it is?
5 weeks ago, the capital improvement plan. Yes, and that is on, Desiree, where is that? Is that on our
That's on our
website?
website, harnett.org/budget. You can see the full document there.
Yep.
Another question. So you're saying county commissioners can't stop housing developments?
Negative, negative. So I get this question all the time. So think of it this way, you buy a property, and developer buys property. He buys, but it's 100-acre property and it's zoned something, RA20, or something, for example, it has different zoning. It has whatever it's zoned. Whatever you can do on the property, whatever uses it has, they can do, as long as they're permitted. So it's, it'd be like someone telling you that you can't do a certain thing on your property if it's permitted, so.
Well, when
But when they come in for a rezoning, like I had touched on earlier, it's, we really, believe it or not, we don't favor developers too kindly. I know I probably can't say that out loud, but honestly, in fact, if you're a developer listening, do your due diligence. Honestly, when you're looking at a property, you already know how many properties you can fit on there. You guys have your engineers that do out all the layout architecture. Don't come to me asking for more properties to be put on your parcel.
Well, one of the reasons we are pushing forward to the conditional zoning ability to do that is that when subdivisions are being developed, even though beforehand, before we could get to conditional zoning, you could build the subdivision, bam, the subdivision was built. But now we can also require other things to be done with that subdivision,
Stipulation.
like buffers and things like that, to make it a better subdivision. And I think in some areas you can require,
We're gonna require sidewalks, require curb and gutting, require certain lighting, certain amount of green space, those type of things.
yes, so that, and we have that public hearing
That is next week.
next week. We have the public hearing on the conditional zoning. So our goal would be to implement that conditional zoning so that we can have a little more control. I know we keep seeing the questions about the impact fees.
Yeah.
We can't do them. And I don't know, if somebody can tell me, can Wake County and Chatham County charge them? I don't think nobody can. So I don't know where that information is coming from, but I don't know that they can.
We are trying to find as many tools as we possibly can, so.
The next question, we've seen a lot of questions about the affordability. And this question is pretty clear. If a family cannot afford to pay the property tax in a lump sum, can they get a payment plan to cover the taxes?
So yes, beginning in February of each year, the tax department takes prepayments in office. You can send those, you can walk in, or you can mail that payment in, or you can pay online. So we will accept prepayments from February until the bills are sent out with a goal date of August 1st, and those will be applied to your bill. And then after that, we consider those post payments. But you may divide your bill up by 10 easy payments or 5 or whatever is works with your budget, and we will accept payment in those amounts. We, of course, with a caveat that taxes bills go out the 1st of August. They're due September 1st, but citizens have until January 5th the following year to pay without interest.
All right, so now we're starting to see some of the same repetitive things. Honestly, this session right here was, like I said, so we can put out the correct information. If you see something online that goes against the things that we are saying here, or if you know of something, please correct your neighbor. We really don't need information that's, misinformation that's being put out. And like I said, if there's ways that you can come to meetings that you can share with your neighbors, maybe, a lot of y'all that are on these social media platforms, you can do some good actually out here instead of spreading hate. If you guys will get on here and kind of share this, you know, I mean, it's that we're all on the same ship, you know, we like to be all rowing together towards the same goal here, you know, and this isn't something that, you know, this was an impromptu meeting. So we could answer some of the misinformation that was out there. I really appreciate the staff taking their time. You know, this was not a planned meeting. This was just something that we wanted to take the time as leadership to get people a little bit more focused back on the goal here. So we do have some dates that we need to keep in mind and put out though before kind of we shut this down. You know, the Board of Commissioner is going to be having a budget work session May 12th. Our deadline for the school budget submissions, May 15th. Our budget public hearing on the recommended budgets, May 18th. The Board of Commissioners will hold our budget work session on May 26th if we need to. And on June 21st is when we will adopt our budget, and that is when we will be adopting the tax rates. So if you can do me a favor, educate your neighbors properly. And if you could put this out, come join some meetings, give your input, you know, I mean, we need your input on exactly what's going on. You guys are the voice. We are the ones that are trying to carry that out. Okay, so pick up the phone. My phone number is 740-818-5955. You can look it up on the website as well. You can email me, call me, any questions. Chairman Jaggers, I know he's more than willing to help. All of our staff is always more than willing to help. So please come, give your input, be a contributing member in a positive way, please, to the community. And please start putting out some information, help us. So.
Howard.
Is that it? It just cut?
It just got off.
All right, okay. Did it cut? Are we back?
Still here.
Okay.
Before we end, because someone did ask, can we at least go around the room and you guys tell who you are so that people know?
Yes, I am Matt Nickel. I am the District 5 Commissioner. I am the current Vice Chairman on the Board of Commissioners.
I'm Christine Wallace. I'm the tax administrator.
I'm Lisa McFadden, Assistant County Manager.
I'm Mike Barham, Assistant County Manager. Brent Trout, County Manager.
Eddie Jaggers, I'm District 4 Representative and currently the Chairman of the County Commissioners.
Okay.
I'm Coley Price, Deputy County Manager.
Did it kill it?
Does it go off after?
There we go.
Sorry, we were having some technical difficulties here, but we appreciate y'all's time also. And honestly, I hope that we did answer some questions, hopefully solve some misconceptions. But we're here for you. Please reach out.
Are we still live?
Yeah, we're here.
Just one last thing. You saw Commissioner Matt gave you the dates. We are not a board that goes on retreats to do our meetings. So we will be, you come to our county, our meeting room, that's where we have all our meetings at. So we will not be retreating anywhere to go do the budget.
May 8th appeals, May 8th,
5 p.m.
5 p.m., May 8th.
last day.
All right. Still on? Yep. Okay.
Thank you.
Y'all have a great night.